everybody, and welcome to the GameSpace game show. I am a host. I'm not your only host. My name is Dexum, Steven, and I'm here with three amazing co-hosts for you today. We have Porna, also known as Shank, the Tank. How's it going, Shank?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited to be here. This is going to be awesome.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. But someone who may not be as excited for you to be here is Joseph, who you'll be referred to as Bradford by Shank. Lovingly referred to.
It's all hate.
It's pretty much all hate, yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. I am excited to be here. I kind of wish Shank wasn't.
Completely understandable. Well, maybe not completely, but I'm sure we'll get into that. And then we have Damien as well. He is not a robot this week.
I am not, and I'm so glad for that. Last week we had all sorts of technical difficulties, and by we I mean me. I apparently did not feed my router enough cheese, so it is sufficiently fed, and we are good to go for this evening.
We've learned just recently that cheese is the major currency in Wisconsin, where Dame is from.
Yep.
So that explains a lot about getting his network up and going. Lots of cheese going on.
Yep, lots of cheese. I keep a little jar of cheese whiz underneath my desk just in case I need to just rub it down a little bit with extra fuel. Keeps it cool. Keeps it burning.
Getting rubbed down with cheese. I mean, I think that's something that I'll be doing when I'm in
basically
Wisconsin
every Vegas
next.
trip. I mean.
Oh yeah.
I thought you weren't supposed to talk about what happens there.
Oh God, we hate that. Please don't say that.
Okay, sorry.
Let's keep saying it.
Stereotypes. I know.
Gosh, we hate that. That's what causes people to do crazy things here because they think they can get away with it.
And most of the time they do, I'm sure. They just don't.
They probably do, yeah. Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of Vegas, there's something really big going on in Vegas.
That was a smooth segue.
You like that? You like how I worked that one in? And I want to know about what it's like on the ground there, because if you're looking at it online, it's pretty crazy. We've had some power outages going on.
Yeah.
Just crazy stuff going on there, and I have no clue. So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit.
So I actually didn't go this year. I've gone every year for the past 3 or 4 years now. I did go downtown at one point just to meet up with a friend of mine who was here, and yeah, we had rain. Which when it rains in Vegas, everyone forgets how cars work and roads and stuff. Yeah. So we had that going on. The fact that CES is spread across 3 or 4 different hotels and then the convention center itself doesn't help, because you may have a meeting in the Sands Expo, which is at the Venetian on the Strip. Then you may have to go all the way down to the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is about 2 miles east of there. And that little corridor from the Wynn, the Venetian, if you're familiar with Vegas at all, there's a street there literally just called the Sands Expo Street, because it runs right next to the Sands Expo, fittingly enough. That street is always backed up. Desert Inn, which is the next street over, is always backed up, because both those streets also go right past the convention center. So if you're a local, you basically just stay away from the Strip. If you're there at CES, you learn how to walk, because you're never going to make it on time if you catch a cab or you catch an Uber or something. It's as crazy as it is just watching it online, it is 100 times crazier being on the ground. Like I said, last year I did go, and I had maybe 5 appointments the entire CES, because those were the only 5 appointments I could easily get to. Yeah, and I missed 2 of them, so that kind of tells you how that goes. Because then you get the
journalism.
Yeah, because then you get the offshoot guys like Lucid Sound last year. They were debuting their LS40s, which is what I'm using right now. Yeah, which Shank has as well.
Too early for plugs, guys. Too early for plugs.
Excuse me. Their thing wasn't even at CES. They were at CES. By that I mean they were at a hotel literally 5 miles down the Strip. So yeah, I missed that appointment. So yeah. It's crazy. It's disgustingly crazy. It didn't help again this year with the rain and the power outages and stuff like that.
Is what you said. So they were just like they just like called you from a hotel window or something like that. Like, hey,
basically,
we got headsets. Come on,
we got free headsets, guys. Come on up to our room. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
what could possibly go wrong?
That's actually pretty common.
Okay.
That guys won't actually, because it's cheaper to just rent out the room that you're using to sleep in, turning that into your show floor, as opposed to renting space on the show floor itself. Especially if you're only there to talk to like maybe 50 people.
Right.
So, yeah, it actually happens quite often at these things. That at E3, a lot of the meetings are at the Marriott next to the convention center. So, yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy not even being there this year. Just trying to drive back and forth from work and stuff for my wife was insane. Just imagine actually having to go to it.
I'd rather not. But instead, what we're going to do for all of those people who didn't get to go, which is everyone, nobody went. No one went. It was just, So, but we are going to show some of the reveals. We're going to talk about a few of them. And for those of you tuning in who are like, man, I was really looking for some games, we do have some game stuff at the end, but this is mostly a CES 2018 show. We did that to disappoint you and crush your dreams. But
what's really funny about that, though, Steven, is that the one night that we're dedicating the show to hardware, our hardware editor is nowhere to be seen in this live stream.
Yeah.
Good job, Chris.
He originally planned to be here until he found out it was all about hardware, and he was like, "Forget this," and he just took off. He just couldn't handle it. Right. So
he went to go wipe his tears with all of his mechanical keyboards that he has.
Yeah, he's got a keyboard museum. So
we have a pinball museum.
Do you? I mean, you do in your house have a pinball museum. Okay, we're talking about
because he's rich.
Not just like he has a throne of keyboards, like he just sits on it and it's just like comes out of the ground. So the first thing we're going to talk about in CES 2018 are displays, because there were a lot of displays. And I'm going to display these displays. Hold on, let's take a look here. The first one that we're going to be talking about is this 146-inch, the Wall is what it's called, by Samsung.
Aptly named.
Yeah, it is a wall.
Little on the nose.
Yeah. I'm not sure where they came up with that. But what I do have a question about is that it's a modular display, and they say that because apparently you can size it somehow. I don't know how exactly you're sizing this thing. I don't know anything about it other than that it's very, very large. I don't know. I don't know much else other than it's a very large TV. As far as that goes, gaming on it would be insane. I mean, forget VR. I mean, you're basically standing in the world as you're playing.
I'm literally picturing hooking up my PC to that and just playing all of the games in 4K.
Mostly Mario Tennis, I would imagine. Just going back and forth. But yeah, I mean, it's huge, and I'm sure it's expensive, and it's extremely frivolous. I don't know anybody who would really want that. And I mean, well, okay, all right. Everyone wants it, but I'm saying, like, in comparison to projectors nowadays, you could do the same thing for probably substantially cheaper, right?
Yeah,
the projectors. Yeah, projectors unfortunately have the problem of the way that they emit the light. They actually lose a lot of light just to the surroundings. So the actual light that you're left with to project onto whatever surface is a lot less bright than the actual source bulb. Now, I know Dell has come out with a laser projector that's like $5,000 or something recently, which is supposed to mitigate some of this issue. But right now, even though those kind of projector technologies are getting a lot better, right now the best displays that you can get are dedicated panels like this. And personally, I mean, like, dude, I would take right now. I would take like an actual like panel over a projector. In 5 years, though, who knows? You know.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the wall here is like the thing that I have to the question that I have to ask with this is like, if you get a TV like this, like you almost have to sell it with the house. If you get something like that installed,
Probably
like
true.
It like you would I would imagine that this thing would be like nightmarish to try to move.
Oh, definitely.
But then again, if you have something like this, you're probably rich enough to afford something like this, meaning you can pay people to move it for you.
That's
So-
fair. That's fair.
Rich man.
In fact, if that's the case, you would just, there would be no mounting on a wall. You would just have people hold it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
I just-
You just
wow.
pay a
Yeah.
rotating staff of people to hold the television for you. That sounds pretty legit.
So one thing I did hear about the wall is that it's a micro LED, that's what's going on with this thing?
Yeah, it's micro LED.
And so the cool thing about that is that each of the little LED pixels emit their own light. I guess a lot at a higher brightness than I guess the.
Well,
yeah.
essentially, it emits its own light, which means you don't need a backlight
Yeah.
for this TV.
That's basically how
yeah.
OLEDs work, really.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. Moving on, we're going to be looking at something else which you guys, I know, we're all interested in. There we go. Moving out from the wall, we've got the HP Omen 65-inch. It's the BFGD big format gaming display. I know that people may call it something else.
I was gonna say
Probably
I was a
deliberately
Doom player. Those letters mean something completely different
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, that was probably deliberate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. Most definitely. So about this one a little bit, it's 120 hertz, 65 inches. One thing it does not do laundry, but other than that, I mean, it's just a humongous. It's a BFGD. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, the craziest thing to me is that it has all those features. It also has G-Sync. It has a NVIDIA Shield built in.
HDR.
It's HDR. It's 4K. It's insane. These screens that NVIDIA is working with these panel guys to make. HP, Asus, and Acer are the three that they're making these panels with. And I won't look badly.
This is probably the one I heard most about, as far as like in the gaming circles. This is the one that people were like licking the screen whenever they saw it.
Well, I think everything else there was purely like prototypish, and this might have even been still kind of a prototype, but it probably was the most feature suite prototype there. HP Omen screens are not that bad either. I almost bought one literally like a week ago. So.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God! Yes. Jeez.
I was watching a preview of this display on Linus Tech Tips, and right now, the thing that I'm really interested in is to see what kind of interface that this is going to get, because right now everything is still kind of like, even though there was hands-on with it, the input was all kind of prototypical. Like if you look at the back of the display, like things were kind of like duct taped on, to the back of it. I mean, not really duct tape, but
I'm kind of surprised they let him look at the back of it. To be fair,
that's true. Yeah. But anyway, I'll be really interested to see what they land on as far as inputs go, because one of the big questions that they're asking, with this is, okay, so this is a display that is primarily a gaming display, but with the built-in like NVIDIA Shield, with I think Amazon Video and YouTube are both 4K enabled with it as well.
4K and HDR, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 4K and HDR enabled with this. So, is this going to be the display that brings the PC into the living room? And with some of the peripherals that like Corsair was previewing, I'm kind of interested to see like from a wireless like keyboard and mouse and configuration standpoint, like is this the thing that brings the PC into the living room? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were just talking about this last night, actually, mentioning Corsair as well. But this is so. The first 3 or 4 years that I was into PC gaming, I had it hooked up to my TV. Mm-hmm. So I was playing on a couch with a keyboard and mouse and with a controller. So it's no secret that you can just plug it into a TV. But I think this is something that I wanted from a display. I've been wanting something like this from a display for a while now.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has all of these, you were mentioning the inputs and interface, I think that's going to be up to the manufacturers and what suite of inputs they want to put on there. But to answer your question, is this going to bring PC into the living room? I think it's going to perhaps put it more in the living room than it was. Mm-hmm. I still do think, though, that like the core of the core PC gamers are always going to want to prefer a desk with a multi-monitor setup, 4-way SLI, and just go. This, I genuinely feel like this is for that class of PC gamers that like a not like your like super hardcore PC gamers, but like your PC gamers, like your like nouveau riche almost PC gamers, where like I have a sweet PC, I have a single monitor, but I want to have a good time on my couch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy something like this, and the fact that it's a display. At the end of the day, it's a display, so you can still hook up your consoles to it if you want. And by the way, it's HDR, so those consoles will work with HDR if you want it to. So this is almost a one-size-fits-all solution, in my opinion. The only thing that I wish they gave you the option for was to configure a version of this without Shield, because I guarantee you that's adding at least $200 to this.
Yeah.
Regardless, I want one. I think the baseline price of this is going to be $2,000 at the minimum. I think realistically it's going to be between $3,000 and $4,500. I want one. Like the fact that I'm actually thinking about, like the fact that I'm like actually seriously thinking about getting one, and like if there's a price in my mind that like if it's in that bracket, then I'm just gonna get it because
you're at the bargaining stage right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I think I'm the market for this. I honestly do think I'm like the market demographic.
You definitely are, because one, you're rich.
Shank is the only market for this. This was the entire premise.
This was literally made just for Shank.
Yeah.
But I think to your last point, price-wise, I think that's what's going to prohibit this from becoming the screen that brings the PC more into the living room, because how many PC gamers or how many players looking at possibly building a PC for the living room are also going to factor in the cost of something like this or be able to afford it? We all know NVIDIA has yeah, exactly. Unless you're Shank, you're not going to be able to afford this.
Yeah. I'm not rich.
You are. It's besides the point. You are.
You just play it on the stream. Right?
Yeah.
You're not rich. You just play it for the stream.
No, he's rich. Don't let him fool you. He's rich. He sits there, counts his money all day. He doesn't have any jobs, whatever. Yeah. No, but I honestly think because of that, you have your G-Sync tax, you have the Shield tax that Shank just mentioned. It's going to prohibit a lot of people who maybe want the screen, like myself, who's not rich, from getting one of these because of that. And I think because of that, this isn't the screen that's going to bring it into the living room. I think what we'll see is this is the start of something that will eventually be iterated down on, and maybe see a FreeSync display come out, because the Xbox One does have FreeSync support.
It does. So FreeSync 2.0 at that,
yeah,
too.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised to see someone support a FreeSync display that's this big that could be used as a TV in your living room. I wouldn't be surprised to see AMD kind of get in this game either, trying to put something out to compete against them. Well, okay, so G-Sync that was one of their big selling points with Vega when they first launched that. G-Sync is expensive, FreeSync isn't. Buy a monitor with our Vega card, and that was all convoluted and messed up, and that's a discussion for a different day.
Yeah.
But that's the mindset that they very obviously have. So I wouldn't mind seeing competition, and I do think we'll see competition in the space. I just don't think this is the screen that's going to break that mold, per se.
Well, I mean, I know that you guys all said that you wanted it. And it's not that I don't want it if someone wants to give it to me, but for me, playing on a screen that large, it would have to be a living room situation. And I mean, I just don't think that I want like a desk in the middle of my living room so that I can use a mouse and keyboard to make this thing work. But
I've got my desk space plotted out, man. Like it's gonna go right there. So
I've got an empty wall right in front of me.
Yeah. But it's not the wall from Samsung, because that
No,
would
it's
be
not,
a
because I'm
screen
not showing.
on top of a screen. That would just be ridiculous.
Yeah.
On a side note, if you guys decide that you want to learn more information about the wall from Samsung, make sure that you add Samsung, because if you just type in the wall, it comes up with a lot of really weird stuff.
Hopefully Michael Jackson shows up.
like Pink Floyd.
and worse. But let's see. Another thing that
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the most interesting one for me, was the LG rollable display here. This thing, I mean, I don't even know what to do with this thing, but I think it's really cool. It just, like, the way that it rolls up, rolls down. Apparently, you can do like a quarter roll up as well. I mean, it looks beautiful. I don't know too much about this one. It's 65 inches as well. OLED. I mean, it's just, it's a great idea. I mean, it's like one of those things where it makes me feel like it's part projector, part TV. A projector, as in like you can roll the screen up and down, which I just love to do it. The only problem is if you can't pull it to make it, like make that noise that happens when you do the screen roll. I love that.
Or when you like pull on it and accidentally let go,
it
just like zooms right up into the thing. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That would be great. I mean, so many people would love something like that. If someone walks in and you're watching something you shouldn't be, you just, and it just rolls up to the top. But aside from that, I think it's a gorgeous display. LG actually had some pretty good showings, aside from their robot.
Yeah.
I think they had a robot that was a complete failure, which I heard some things about. But
Could be worse. Your booth could have lost power.
that's true.
This is true.
That's
Yep.
very
Or
true.
it could have been not waterproof.
Not waterproof. Very true. But yeah, I mean, I love watching it. I like how this rolls. In terms of TVs, in terms of screens, I think this probably isn't your best bet for gaming, but I think for general livability, I think it's a pretty cool idea, and I would be really interested to see the price points on this one whenever it releases.
Yeah, and you were talking about LG earlier. They were at the show with a lot of monitors as well. Like,
Yeah, they were.
a lot of not necessarily just gaming monitors, but production and working like just creativity monitors. They actually did a very good job this year, in my opinion, of coming out with not just a good kind of diversity of monitors that you could get, but the fact that they had no frills around them, right? They were just basic design, simple design. They looked elegant. They didn't have flashy LEDs, and they just looked nice and functional. And they had a monitor for like your widescreen productivity, your just standard 1080p, your gaming G-Sync and FreeSync monitor. And they had like the whole breadth of monitors. So they did a pretty good job, I think, of showcasing their display technology this year. So
yeah, I agree with that. One thing I didn't show, and I can't even remember who did this, but the big thing that everyone's been doing, it doesn't matter if you're doing phones or TVs or whatever, is everyone wants to do like bezel-less stuff, which it's the cool new thing is to be bezel-less, but
The wall is bezel-less.
yeah, it is. But the interesting thing that I saw is there was and I don't have pictures to show it, but somebody came up with like a I don't know, an attachment to your bezels that makes every monitor bezel-less or something like that when you're connecting them.
That was Republic of Gaming, wasn't it?
that was right. Yeah, that was Asus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't
I hadn't
know.
heard that.
I wish I had something to show you. I don't.
It's like a prism. It's like a prism that connects to your monitors, so that it looks. So it's not entirely bezel-less, but it does look a little bit seamless, I guess, between your displays.
Yeah.
Asus bezel-free kit is a messy monitor solution.
It's
a great headline.
It's really. I mean, I don't want to be rude about it because I don't know. I mean, I'll be nice.
I just read a headline. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's ugly. It is. I mean, I'm sorry.
Looking at it right
I'm
now,
sorry.
it's kind of ugly.
It is. It is pretty ugly. I mean, it's almost like you know, from the picture standpoint, it's like someone like wallpapered over the bezels with like something. And you can just kind of tell, you know, they're just trying to put it together. I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, don't you want the crystals of power on the edge of your display to blend the pictures together?
I see what they were trying to do, and you know, bravo. But I just think you know, with everyone making bezel-less monitors and phones and everything, I would just say buy something else instead of buy our, you know, our little strips of whatever.
That's the nice thing about CES. A lot of these things never actually come out. I mean, we saw Lumni Room from Microsoft years ago, which is basically proof of concept.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
this may never actually hit this may never actually hit the store shelves. This could just be them showing it off, gauging reaction, and iterating upon it later on.
Yeah.
Steven's like, we do not need this thing on the market.
We don't, and the sad thing is I would probably buy them just be like, these are terrible, but I just have to see how bad. So, you know, just like how you know, Shank is the market for the BFDDs, you know, I'm the market for the for these bezel-less designs. So another thing about bezel-less designs kind of goes into our next segment. Which is VR and AR, which is all bezel-less designs because you just keep turning and there's no end in sight. There were a lot of things. You know, VR has been trying to catch on for a long time, and I don't want to debate whether or not it has caught on, but I am going to force each one of you to tell me if you think it has, and then I will debate you. So please. What are your thoughts on this?
So, I guess I'll go first. I don't think it's caught on. I think the barrier of entry, I personally think, is too high. I know Sony's been trying to desperately push their PSVR. Don't even get me started on PSVR. I hate it. Just don't even get me started on it. I don't think VR has been the next thing yet. It's purely, honestly, the barrier of entry, because right now if you want, you know, good immersive VR, you have to get it on a PC. There's no other place you can get it except on a PC. And that too, you need to have the space for it because of the room scale. Both Rift and Vive do room scale. Plus, you have to buy the actual VR thing. So that the actual barrier of entry, just purely from a monetary standpoint, is relatively high. I don't think it's at the consumer, like, commoditized level yet. That being said, the Vive Pro that they showed off, I think, is really the Vive Pro is what HTC and Valve wanted to make in their first go around. I'll put it that way. And they had kind of like their beta with the Vive that released 2 years ago. Now they have the Vive Pro.
Expensive beta.
It is an expensive beta, but it's you have to put it onto the market and test it and understand and learn from it and get data from it to be able to create something like the Vive Pro. And I personally think the Vive Pro, while it's not going to be the next thing, it's definitely a step in that direction to make it smaller. I mean, we're already seeing wireless VR. That's a big deal. It really is a big deal. Because that gets rid of the wires right there, right? So I think with each successive release, you're going to see it get better. The problem with VR is that it is inherently dictated by hardware. And it's not like software where you can just push a patch and get some brand new functionality. No, this has to be created and manufactured, produced, the whole supply chain deal. So it's going to be much slower adoption, in my opinion, but I've gone long enough. That's my 2 cents.
Well, we just put a a little slideshow of the Vive Pro. Now, the Vive Pro is definitely an upgrade from what the Vive was. It's 2880 by 1600 resolution. It's got the Vive Pro now comes with the Lighthouse trackers, which supposedly you can have up to 4 of them to do your room scale. It has the Y-Gig wireless attachment, so that you can not have to worry about wires so much. So it definitely is probably what most people wanted whenever they originally bought the Vive or bought into the Vive.
Yeah.
I think it looks I think it looks like a weird little robot on your face, but that's because of the new little
the camera lenses.
Yeah. But you know what? That's how most of these sets are going these days. They just. But he looks happy. He looks like a happy robot at least. He's kind of smiling. But yeah, I mean it's definitely an upgrade from what the Vive was. But I mean, for me, it doesn't make me want to rush out and get one. Not quite yet. There is something else. There are a couple other things that were at CES that I am interested in, but before I get to that, I'm going to pass this on over to Joseph and see what he thinks about VR for today, the state that it's in.
So I'm for me, it's use case based. So gaming wise, no, it's not caught on. I don't think it will. Simply for the reasons that Shig mentioned. The barrier of entry is just too high in terms of the overall cost. You have to have a pretty beefy computer. You have to have the headset. You have to have the controllers. Then you have to have the software to play it or to use it. So the barrier of entry is too high. But depending on the use case, if you're in the medical field, this is revolutionary right now. My wife just had surgery, and her doctor used a VR headset to basically show her what he was going to be doing. Cool. The sports industry is using it. Quarterbacks in the NFL now look at film and practice with a VR headset on, so they can be more immersed in the film itself. So in terms of industry, I think in some cases it has caught on, and in some cases it will continue to flourish and thrive. I just don't think gaming is one of them. I think it'll always have a use case in the gaming market, but I don't think it's ever going to be as mainstream as people were hoping it would be a few years ago. I have a friend who's a very good friend of mine who was a VR evangelist, who was basically like speaking about VR to everybody. He doesn't even talk about it anymore. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I don't see it picking up like everybody thought. There's a reason why Sony's barely supporting the PSVR. It's basically the
in
Vita.
2018 it's getting a ton more games, which for some reason apparently.
Yeah, I don't understand. Well, I don't understand. But let's put it this way: the Vita got a lot of games before it stopped being supported again.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So I mean, I gaming wise, again, I don't see it being as popular as we all hoped, but it's going to be used. This technology is not going to slow down.
I don't really consider a lot of what they put out on VR as games. I think that they're experiences. I like to call them experiences because in a game, I mean, there's generally a lot of things to do. I feel like a lot of the games that you're playing on VR right now are more just like temporary roller coasters. You kind of go through your the little set thing that they have set up for you, and then
have you done Elite Dangerous in VR yet?
I have not.
Yeah, that'll change.
Well, I mean, one game. I mean, I have played games that were actually games, but they're just so few and far between that it's like, is it really worth it just for the meager showings that they have? I think I can't recall who did the review. Maybe it was Bill, who ended up doing the was it the Fallout VR?
That was Chris.
That was Chris. Chris did it.
Yep.
I think he was talking to me about that too. Somebody did it, but yeah, I mean, I could understand the immersion from it, but I don't think that we're there yet. in terms of spending a lot of time playing a game like that, getting the feel for it, running around and doing all the. This is Fallout. If anyone asks, this is how you fall out.
Well, to that point, really quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt, but to that point, I don't think you saw this when people went from when transitioned from plays to when the film industry started. People used to just literally film plays, and because that's what they thought movies were. But now movies are their own thing. They're completely produced differently, and I think that's what's happening right now with VR. Is that right now we're treating VR games as traditional games, bound by traditional rules, rather than treating it as its own platform. And I think that learning still needs to happen, because I fundamentally believe once this has matured enough, the experiences you get in VR from a gaming perspective are going to be so completely different from what a quote-unquote traditional mouse and keyboard or gamepad game is. So I think we're still in that infancy phase where we're still trying to find our feet. We're still trying to learn how to crawl, first of all. So I think, it's going to be an evolutionary process. I personally think it's going to take a while before we see any actual true killer app on a VR, personally.
Yeah.
And that's great that you brought up crawling, because the next thing is the Lenovo Mirage Solo standalone Daydream headset. While we watch this, I really love that picture of the old guy with he's just so excited. This is a standalone Daydream headset. It has access to the Play Store, Chromecast, 6 degrees of freedom, and the premise of 6 degrees of freedom is that you get to walk around, you get to act like you're actually immersed in whatever you're playing. Granted that there are games that allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of what most people expected of VR, what they wanted, not to be tethered. The difference between this and the Vive Pro is that this is basically a mobile Daydream set without the cell phone. You just you can go anywhere, whereas with the Y-Gig you would have to be within proximity of Wi-Fi or something. With this, you can literally walk out of your house and get lost in the forest for hours at a time, and no one will ever find you or come looking for you. And even if they did, you couldn't see them because you would be in the Daydream world. So now that we've covered all that, what do you think about VR, the Mirage Solo, Damien? How are you feeling about this in the industry?
So I'm still waiting for the holodeck. I honestly think, and I'm going to kind of reiterate some points that Shank and Bradford made here, in that I think that we are really in our infancy. If even that, I still kind of feel like we're in gestation with VR right now.
Soup.
Yeah, because I mean, here's the thing, and this is coming from somebody who got burned on motion controls here. Immersion controls. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. Yeah. Immersion controls. So this is somebody. I'm somebody that kind of got burnt on motion controls. I bought into the Wii. I bought into the Kinect, with the hopes and the anticipation that this was going to be some good interactive gaming, and just really got let down by them. One of the biggest things, it's funny, with this previous item that we're talking about here, the Daydream headset here. It's funny, you're still going to be running into things. I cannot tell you the number of times that I was trying to play something and tripped over my couch or ran into a table or something like that. There's a reason why there's a website called We Have a Problem when the Wii was released, because the motion control damage was just atrocious, or just the things that happen as people are trying to compensate for the lack of ability of some of these controls was just atrocious. So for me, I want to believe I really, really want to believe, because I think that we're getting to a place with gaming. I mean, because one of the things that's so great about gaming is that it offers us the opportunity to be able to enter these fantastical worlds and be a part of something that's different than the day to day. And so what I think is great about these developments in VR is that we're getting closer to better immersion with some of these things, but I just don't know that we're there yet. I just don't know that we're there yet, and there are some limitations that I think that we're still trying to work out to make it be a thing that would be kind of have a good place in the home.
I can agree with that. The last actual VR set that we're going to showcase is an old set. It's not old, but it was shown last year, I believe, the Huawei VR2. It has a 1600 by 1440 per eye resolution, which is pretty good. I believe that's roughly, I think they said it's like 3K. 90 hertz refresh rate. It connects to a phone, tablet, or PC. I think that is the big point for me, is that it can do a phone, a tablet, or a PC. So you can have it do mobile. You can also connect it up to a PC and maybe play. I don't know. Maybe you could be playing Fallout 4 in it. Whatever VR people are playing these. Whatever you kids are playing these days.
Really dangerous.
Yeah,
really dangerous.
Is that's all they've ever been playing. Like ever since it released on VR, that's all I hear about. It's like the must game.
Valkyrie is pretty good too.
I did play Valkyrie though. Yeah. I did play that one, but they have that on mobile as well. And I think they have Elite Dangerous on mobile as well, but I can't recall. So this is it's probably going to end up being a little bit cheaper than some of the other sets whenever it releases, and I think it's going to be a little bit more versatile in what you're able to do with it. So that's just something for people who are interested in VR. Maybe they don't like the expensive buy-ins. Keep looking at this set, and we'll see what the price point is. I think I actually did look up what the price point was in the foreign country of origin, and it was about $300 US, which is a really good price for its specs. So
yeah,
I think we'll be seeing some good stuff in the future as far as that's concerned. And we have two other things in the VR space. Well, this is more AR space. The Vuzix Blade 3000. It's Google Glass updated. I'm a really big AR person. I'm like a hologram, and I think that this is. I really think it's pretty cool. I don't know what you can really do with it yet. I don't know what development has been for Google Glass since it kind of fell off a cliff, but this is Bluetooth enabled. You can connect your phone to it. It also has Wi-Fi for file transfers, a micro SD expansion slot. How cool is that? An 8 megapixel camera that can do 1080p video. So AR, I mean, will it play Pokemon Go? That's really the question.
That's the major question.
Yeah.
Will Pokemon Go play Pokemon Go?
Yeah.
That's the bigger question.
That's
Get
true.
anyone together playing that game, and it seems to break.
So,
yeah.
You were talking about like the medical field and so on and so forth earlier. I think that's really where we're going to start seeing a lot of AR stuff going forward. But AR is my big. I mean, that's what I've been waiting for to see that kind of take off. But with these new glasses. They're talking about them costing around $1,000, which is what Google Glass was whenever it released originally. But they're thinking, in the next few generations, they'll be able to get their costs down to about $500. So $500 to $1,000, is this going to be worth it? What do you guys think?
I think that it depends on whether or not you can get prescription lenses in them.
Yeah.
Because I would totally get a pair.
Yeah.
I think this is where this is what separates me. I guess I shouldn't say separates me, but I think this is where the separation is for me between AR and VR. Like if I can have something that that's a prescription glasses, I'm wearing them anyway, and I can get a heads-up display in the day-to-day, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I can see that, definitely. Last thing on our list, I don't want to bypass AR because I love it so much, but we are kind of running over already. But the last thing on our list, check this out. So Black Box VR Experience is a gym. Avert your eyes if you don't want to see male nipples, but there's
most useless things ever.
But
all right, Chris's cats, hide your eyes.
Yes, if Chris's cats are watching. So this is kind of cool. So it's a video game environment that coordinates with the workout machines that you are working out on. And it kind of, I don't know if it just shows you a different world, but what you end up doing is you're kind of playing mini games as you're working out. Like, you're lifting weights, and each weight that you lift is, like punching your grandma in the face or something. I don't know what it would be exactly, but...
It would be a horrible game.
Well, I mean, it depends on how much you like your grandma, but
Mine is dead. That would be awful.
Well, punch someone else's grandma, just anyone's grandma. Just Grandma Fighter, like VR, that would be...
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, Black Box VR, take that into consideration. Grandma Fighter VR for the. So this is actually going to be kind of like a gym experience. You go into the gym, you hop on one of these machines, you put on this probably extremely wet and sweaty headset because people have been working out in them all day long. And you play these games as you pump iron. I like the idea. I like the premise. I think that this is a terrible idea in practice because VR kind of pulls you out of the world. You can't see what's going on. You also might push yourself a little bit harder than you might normally, not being able to see. Like the other day, there was that whole thing about the person who tripped over their glass table and they didn't realize they were bleeding so heavily. I worry that people are going to be riding a bike and then somehow get hit in the head by somebody else, throwing dumbbells or something. I mean, you can't see it coming.
I was just gonna say, I just imagine somebody throwing around free weights, trying to min-max their high score in the game, and just whack somebody with them.
Yeah, min-maxing at the gym. That's good. Yep. So what do you guys think? Is this gonna bring you into the gym anytime soon? I mean, I don't know if you guys are gymming right now, but how do you feel about it? No gyms. This is not going to bring you into the gym. You wouldn't want to go just to try it out for a premium
just to try it out, sure, maybe, but it's not going to be what. If I don't want to go to the gym already, going to play because I can bring my Switch to play a video game if I really wanted to go to the gym and play video games.
That's right.
So, yeah, it'd be a novelty at first, but I would much rather just go to the gym and get it over with.
Yeah.
So.
I just don't know that I would want to wear a sweaty VR mask after somebody else. That'd just be weird.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of the biggest trend that we're, well, not the biggest trend. It's a growing trend of gamification of everything. So I think that's I like the premise of that. Like I said, in practice, I don't think it's going to end very well for them. I think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits and people hurting themselves, but now if it was something for the home user maybe, and someone could put the headset on and do their workouts at home, calisthenics.
I think I was seeing something about Bowflex doing that.
Oh yeah, Bowflex would be great.
Broflex.
if they did it where Chuck Norris was your instructor, like that, I think that would probably revolutionize the game.
Mm-hmm. And then they could do like a sequel where it would be Chuck Norris fights your grandma, and you just like help him out.
Whenever you mention this, I'm thinking like old Celebrity Deathmatch claymation fighter.
That's what, dude. Yeah. I'm straight up like, yeah.
Like MTV of the 1990s.
Right.
So the last thing on our list that we're going to move on to, we're going to come back to Black Box VR whenever it inevitably is in several dozen lawsuits, but we're gonna talk about PCs, and before we get into the actual PCs, which were very many, we're gonna talk a little bit about the GeForce Now, which is in free beta for both Mac and PC. And the premise of this is that you'll be able to stream games, which we have heard before. I think On Live was like, hey, we can stream your games forever, but and I think they crashed and burned. So the premise is that you'll be able to stream games at 1080p with low latency. That's the biggest thing, is low latency, at 120 frames per second, as long as, caveat, as long as you have a 25 megabytes per second connection or faster. It's required, absolutely 100% required. So I signed up for the beta. I think Shank did. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I have actually used this.
Oh,
same here.
So
really?
So I signed up back in, I think it was June, when the Mac beta started, and it works really well. I was very surprised at how well it worked for me. I was I actually, before my Mac Pro crapped the bed, I was running, it was 2009, 2009 Mac Pro, that I was running Arc on it at highest settings. It was gorgeous, and ran stupid well. And I actually wanted to try it out in a way that, just kind of testing, okay, how is the latency, not just for me, but using it alongside of another user who's using GeForce Now. And so myself and Matt Keith, who's another writer with GameSpace and MMORPG, he and I tried it out one night with Arc and played for a couple of hours. And I think we had like maybe one or two hiccups with it, but by and large, the service was pretty seamless. I was pretty shocked by how well it worked.
Yeah, and just one really quick thing about the frame rate and everything. So at the 120 hertz, there's a little asterisk to that actually, because the game on the servers that's rendering it, it'll be rendered at 120 frames per second there. But when it's streamed to you, it will be at 60 frames per second. So and the reason they're doing that should be obvious, really. It's just you want to get the smoothest, lowest latency gameplay possible.
Right.
But personally, and probably going to get called a fanboy for this, but whatever. If any company can do this and has the not just the R&D, but just the know-how, NVIDIA would be it. Like their spend and their knowledge and mastery in the graphics technology space is, I'm going to say it's unmatched right now. I really do think it is, because they're not just leading the field in like the highest end gaming graphics hardware, because that's a fact they are. They've been building up to this GeForce Now, because look at what the NVIDIA Shield is. It is in-home network streaming. And I've played with an NVIDIA Shield before, and it's as good, if not better, than the Steam. I can't remember the thing.
Steam Link.
Steam Link. Yeah, it's as good, if not better, than the Steam Link.
I disagree with you there, but that's neither here nor there.
So, in one way or another, they've been building up their like technology stack and their knowledge base for this, and I think that this, like you said, this isn't new technology, right? Like this cloud gaming is not new by any means. I still think just from an infrastructure spot in the U.S., like bandwidth, like and broadband needs to be proliferated more. But the technology, I think, has matured enough to a point where you can do this now, low latency, if you've got the bandwidth for it. And I'm very much looking forward to actually testing this out if when I get into the beta, and like I'm really excited to see if it actually holds up like it's supposed to, you know. So
the couple of things that so that's where you get your money from.
Yes.
So
all that NVIDIA shill money.
All that NVIDIA shill money. We talked about that last time. What I'm really interested to see is a couple of things with this. For one, I'm interested to see as it gets out of beta, two things really. Thing number one is what is going to be the subscription cost to that, because that is going to be either a deterrent or a gateway to a lot of people being able to play more games or have access to a greater library of games. And the other thing that's going to be really interesting to see is how it scales. Because right now, I think that if I remember correctly, that each of the users has a dedicated, is it just a GTX 1080 or is it a 1080 Ti?
Yeah, I think it's a Ti, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Ti. It's a Ti, and I think
when they announced it last year, it was a 1080, but it's because the Ti hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, okay. And I think, and I could be wrong, but I think if you're getting like the 120 hertz frames per second option, whatever, I think it's 1080s and SLI, 1080 Ti's and S, or something crazy like that. But I digress.
Yeah, I'll just be really interested to see, like, as whatever is, you know, after, you know, the 10 series, the Volta series, you know, when the end user Volta cards come out, like what that's going to look like for GeForce Now. And the other thing too, which is really interesting, is I'm interested to see what this is going to do to the PC parts market. Because again, you know, if you have the option to dump, you know, $300-400 or more, you know, depending on the scarcity of the cards, on a graphics card, or, you know, maybe pay, you know, $200 a year, and I'm being very, very conservative on my estimate on that. Let's say just, you know, say $250 a year to leverage, you know, this service. You know, depending on how you are with hardware, I mean, I don't know, like or depending on what hardware you have access to that you're using it with, I'll be very interested to see what that does market wise.
Yeah, I think it's gonna. Personally, I think this is gonna live in like a very, very, very niche slice of the market where you're gonna have your high-end gamers who, no matter what, they're not gonna want a streaming service, because people like me, I'm gonna want a 4K display. Right, I'm going to want 4K. I'm going to want 60 hertz on there. I don't want a streaming service that's going to give me a 1080p, you know,
right,
no matter how low latency it is. So I think that market you can throw away, who are the customers for this. I don't think those people want it. Then you have your average, quote unquote, average PC gamer with, you know, with more modest hardware. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're the market for this either, because those are the people, I think, that kind of know what they want and plan within a budget, and they will build their PC and kind of surround their PC ecosystem around that budget. But I do think between that, like, kind of average, quote unquote, average PC gamer and the enthusiast PC gamer, there is a slice of the market, which I think it's a small slice, but I think that's where this is going to fit in.
Well, I also think too that it's, again, going with that niche market, that it also, for people like me, I am a Mac gamer. We do exist.
Yeah.
But we're a tiny piece of the pie there. But yeah, something like this, that you know, leveraging the GeForce Now service, any, you know, PC title that's available on that service, if I own it on Steam or I own it on, you know, the Battle.net or Blizzard app, then I can play it wherever. That's awesome to me.
True.
Yeah, and NVIDIA agrees and disagrees with both of you guys. When I played this, it was at CES last year when they first unveiled it. And so my experience is very controlled. Obviously, it's not like the experience you had where you actually got to play this in your environment. Mine was not running off of NVIDIA servers back in like Austin or whatever. It was on a server literally right behind me, because it was the only way they could make it work. But I played The Witcher 3 on a Mac, and it felt great. But again, with those caveats there. To them, this is partly the Mac gamer like yourself,
Yep.
who doesn't want to invest in a PC, but they want to still be able to game on their Mac, and this is one of the best ways you can feasibly do it. But it's also for those gamers who have a library of PC games but don't own a gaming PC anymore. And I have plenty of friends like that too.
Yeah.
And so they have the Steam library that's just sitting there. Well, instead of going out and building a brand new PC, you invest like, let's say $200 in a subscription for a year. They wouldn't tell me price back then either, so that's just a ballpark estimate here. But you have access to all of your games. You can buy new games. You can download free-to-play games, whatever you want to play. That's kind of who they're targeting as well. They're not targeting the Shanks of the world who are rich enough to buy whatever they want. They're not targeting me, who has a good enough PC that I can play pretty much anything that I do want to play out there.
Right, yeah.
They're targeting the Mac gamer. They're targeting the gamer who doesn't have access to their games anymore. They're targeting the person who goes on the road constantly, can't play on their gaming PC, but still wants to access their Steam library.
Yeah.
So they're I don't think they're expecting this to be the end-all, be-all PC gaming solution. They're expecting this to be that very niche marketplace that Shank was talking about, but also service those gamers like yourself who play on a Mac. It's definitely interesting to see what they're going to do. Like I said, when they first announced this last year, when I first played it, very controlled environment. I haven't had a chance to play it since. I am in the beta. I just forget that I'm in the beta. So
Rich people forget stuff like that.
So basically, it's for just people who are either like Dame and they're on a Mac, or people who use a potato for a computer. So that's pretty much the market there. But for people not so unlike Shank, we have all of these fancy
character assassinations have already begun.
We have all these fancy PCs, laptops that they were showing at CES. Due to time constraints, we kind of just lumped them all together. So I will briefly describe what each of these pictures are, starting with the Digital Storm Spark, which is this one that's on the screen right now. It's a nice little box. The MSI GE63 Raider RGB, which is this fancy one with all the RGB lights. Basically looks like a magical unicorn. And the Acer Nitro 5 2018 edition was updated for, I think they swapped it to a Ryzen build now, which the cool thing about that is that it's I'd say it's a medium high gaming rig for I think they said it's about $800. So it's basically a budget gaming PC that's going to run a lot of games pretty well. I mean, maybe not all ultra settings, but it'll get you through. And then the last one on the list is the Origin Millennium, which is also kind of a pretty little PC there. So that's what we've got displaying on the screen for you. I basically, to kind of sum up all of these, is that they're all better than what you own, unless you're Shank. So I think
it's probably not untrue.
So I mean, I like what they're showing me. I am gonna like it better whenever I can do some hands-on in a store or something like that. I mean, basically with the specs that they have, I think it all looks great. I'm not an RGB guy. I think the lights distract me. I'm very distracted by bright and shiny things, so I can't have it whenever I'm gaming, or else I'll never get anything done. But I mean, did you guys see any PCs that you were kind of fond of that you were like, hey, Shank's already nodding, so he's like,
what am I going to buy next?
Yeah,
it's the Digital Storm. So one thing that you'll learn about me relatively quickly is I value design a lot. The Digital Storm PC, I think, is just a beautiful piece of engineering. Like that is very pretty. I covet the case, but that's pretty much it. Like anything inside, I can probably just.
So let's just put this out there. You're going to buy that computer just for the case and throw everything else out.
Don't tempt me, Frodo.
No denial there.
Well, I mean, basically, I put that slideshow in there because he's going to get all of them, and he's just going to tape them together, and then he's just going to.
So what he's going to do is he's going to position them all in a picture on his coffee table with his 4K HDR TV behind him, his Xbox One X, his 1080 Ti box next to it, and a lump of dollar bills.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd want to do if I had as many dollar bills.
You would want to do it.
I would want to
do
it.
I may or may not have done something similar to that before.
I think what's really interesting is that and this is something that I've been kind of watching with this year's CES, is that it seems like that some of there are more budget friendly parts, I think, that are getting onto the market that aren't like, it's not budget like hot garbage budget. It's like, it's budget that's actually fairly decent.
It's value. It's a good value.
Yeah, it's a really good value. And so the buy-in for PC gaming is a lot lower than it used to be.
Right.
And so I think that's a really, really good trend that we're seeing. And so, I really didn't look at the price points of these PCs here, because I have no interest in going out and buying them. But yeah, I think it's cool though to see that, like, yeah, there are some builds that are a little bit more budget conscious, but can still keep up with modern gaming.
Absolutely. And there were some pretty good hardware-ish reveals in terms of budget hardware that they're starting to put together, but we don't really have time to spotlight them all, because next up we have the What Are You Playing segment, which is pretty much towards the end of our show, because we're running over. We always run over. 90% of the time it's just we just get caught up in talking about Shank's money. But if this time around, for What Are You Playing, I'm actually gonna start with Shank and Bradford here, because they kind of have their own a few different things. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is what Shank is playing, which is I'm going to play a little trailer while he kind of goes over what he's been up to.
Yeah, so I've been playing Prey, just basically revisiting it, because when it released last year in May, I think there was something else. Like, there was a whole bunch of good games that released last year, so I bought it and I played like maybe a few hours, but not really too much into it. But I remember really liking it. Graphics were not what they should be for CryEngine, which is such a shame. The gameplay, however, is quite nice. So I'm going back and I'm playing it now, and it's very... I never played System Shock. I don't think I was old enough to play System Shock. But I played BioShock.
A year older than you when I played System Shock.
I never had a PC for PC gaming because I wasn't rich growing up, Bradford.
You're right.
I still don't think he's old enough, though, even now.
So I played... It reminded me a lot of BioShock, which... BioShock was inspired by System Shock.
Yeah.
So this game, I love it because I'm very much a single player type person. As much as I love PUBG, it wasn't even in my top 5 games for last year. They were primarily single player open world RPGs. So I like the single player I just love single player games over multiplayer games any day of the week. And this is very much a game where you feel isolated, but it's so good, and like it's so nice on PC. I love it. Like, as soon as this is done, I'm probably going to go back and play more Prey. So that's Prey.
He means as soon as the trailer that we're showing is done, he's just going to like drop out of the rest of the
he's
show.
He's going to have an
like,
empty seat.
See ya.
He's going to play it as he's on the show, you know.
Yeah. That's we're not going to stream it though. So yeah, we don't care about it. We're done with you, Shank. I think I didn't get a chance to play it myself, but I have heard some good things about it. What is it released on?
It's on PC, Xbox. It's PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
They do have, I think the patches for PS4 Pro and Xbox One X are out already. I can't remember if Digital Foundry did an Xbox One X analysis.
I don't think
But
they have.
regardless, it doesn't matter because like the PC version is so well optimized, and they actually did an analysis on the hardware you need to be able to play it at 1080p 60 frames per second. Dame, you were talking about the barrier of entry, like the low-end budget hardware. You can run this game with like a Pentium processor basically and a 1060. So at 60 frames per second, it's such a well-optimized game that there's no question that the PC version is by far and away the best version of the game you can play. So
Nice.
and you don't even you can play it on a potato and get it super well. So I'm always going to tell
Or you
people
can
to play
it
the
on
PC
GeForce
version
Now.
or GeForce Now whenever it's on there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the next thing is a game that Bradford's been playing. I know that Shank has some feelings about this as well, but we'll let Bradford kind of tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I've been playing Persona 5.
Boo, Andy.
Right? Yeah. Basically anything that I love, Shank has to hate. So there you go. Yeah. So Persona 5, it's it's only on PS4. It's a PS4 exclusive. It's a game where basically you are convicted of a crime you didn't commit, and you're having to go through like this rehabilitation parole type deal where you're at a new school. You meet new and interesting people. And in fact, the Persona series has always been about like this exploration of like the unknown and the occult type deal. So you spend half of the game in high school. Like it's basically a high school simulator where you go to class, you answer questions from your teachers and stuff. You travel around the city with your friends, you go meet up with them. Everything that you do in the simulation aspect of it, though, influences your role-playing aspect, the actual RPG gameplay where you're in dungeons, you're using your personas, which are kind of the spirits that have chosen to join with you to fight these other spirits in the shadow world. And for me, the things that really caught my attention with this game is the art style. It's very aggressive. It's very confident with what it is. The soundtrack is this really awesome acid jazz soundtrack. It's absolutely phenomenal. Like my daughter at this point has listened to it so much that now she listens to the soundtrack on her own.
Wow.
I'm playing it constantly. I'm about 45 hours into the game, and I don't even think I'm halfway through it. This is a long game.
Wow.
And Shank will tell you I have a very hard time sticking
He hasn't
with games.
finished Witcher 3, okay? Like, that's all I'm going to say.
Let's put it this way. I had The Witcher 3 on my system before anybody else
Before
did.
I did, yeah. And like, Jesus.
I have a very hard time sticking with games. I'll play a game for a few weeks, and then I'll get bored, and I'll have to go play something else. I don't
Just
think
the
I
exact
played...
opposite of...
This is the exact opposite. Like, I have played 2 other games, with the exception of this. I played PUBG. Okay, 3, I guess, technically, because I played Final Fantasy 14 earlier today. So, like, I played PUBG, and I played GTA 5 with Shank and our friends.
Wow.
Other than that, it's been all Persona 5 since, like, last November. So if you own a PS4 and you like really, really good JRPG games, you're looking for an incredible single-player experience, Prey is a good option, but I would say Persona 5 is the better option. So, yeah.
Yeah, just slap Shank right in the face there. Yeah.
So
Praise.
bad.
Okay, but Persona 5.
Well, Prey did get a 4 out of 10, so.
I actually was looking at Persona 5 because I think it was on special recently or something.
Yeah, they just came out with the collector's edition, or the complete edition, which was on sale. Yeah.
So I was looking at
it's
that, and
so worth getting, so worth playing. Even if you don't play it all the way through in one sitting, I have not found a single thing wrong with that game in 45 hours, and
It exists. That's what's wrong with it.
It exists and you enjoy
that's
it.
enough. Yeah. Your joy is what's wrong with it. Remove the joy and it will be okay. So the last thing that you guys are going to be plugging here is this podcast. For those of you who just can't get enough of some Bradford Shank action. Tell us a little bit.
That sounds dirty
about this.
because it is.
Yeah. You haven't noticed, Shank and I know each other, like, from beyond this. Like we said at the beginning of the show. Like we said at the beginning of the show. Yes, I know the way I worded that. I chose my words specifically. I are a writer, okay? So yeah, no, we actually do another podcast. In fact, we do it every Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. in God's time zone, which specific time zone for those of you out there who don't understand that. And it's called Gaming the Industry. We talk about industry. We talk about the entire industry as a whole. So we don't just talk about the games. We talk about the hardware. We talk about the industry issues. We talk about consumer issues. We talk about the media. Basically, nothing is off limits on our show, even to the point where I get uncomfortable talking about certain things because I like to have jobs in this industry. So we do it on your YouTube channel, Shank, which plug if you want.
So my YouTube channel is youtube.com/ShankTH Tank, and I stream it there. And if you want all the video on demands of all the previous episodes are under the Gaming the Industry playlist on my YouTube channel. And just to coattail off of what Bradford said, my personal passion on that show and just in games in general is kind of educating consumers. So I recently joined GameSpace, and that's primarily what my editorials are going to be focused on. I'm going to write stuff that's going to annoy people, that's going to piss people off because they're not going to agree with it. But I personally believe it is the onus of the media to educate consumers. So we deal a lot with consumer issues like the whole loot box controversy. We talked about review scores for an episode or two, and unfortunately or fortunately, this industry has. Something always comes up every week, so our show always has content.
You are the front page of the internet.
We are. No, that's not even a lie, because like we will talk about and discuss and analyze something for 90 minutes on that show in great detail with multiple examples, like actual journalism. And then the next day,
like actual journalism, but
not. And then the actual something that we just spoke about happens the next day, and it's just. It's uncanny, but
now to be fair, it is probably the worst 90 minutes you can spend listening to anything on the entire planet. Like you could literally do anything else better with your time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Husk corn, eat poutine, draw a picture to your dead grandma.
Have you eaten poutine before?
I have.
Okay,
it is a better use of my time. It's pretty fantastic, but I'm just saying the caloric implications of poutine make it so that it's definitely something that would put you at risk for something, but it is still a better use of your time than listening to our podcast.
Yeah, we implore you, do not listen to our show.
Yeah. That's basically this wasn't a plug, this was a disclaimer of please do not try and find us outside of the show. Do not listen to our show.
Yeah,
and I think you even alluded to the caloric intake of Gaming the Industry to be more than poutine. So do not eat it.
We're on episode 146, and I cannot understand why the internet has not gone up in flames yet. Like every single time we say what episode number we're on, I'm just amazed that we're still allowed to do this. This is basically, if there was ever an apology for like video games, this is our apology for podcasts.
This is as close. Well, I don't apologize, so this is the closest you'll ever get.
Rich people don't apologize.
It's an apology not on the show. It's on a different show. You don't apologize when you're actually
just point
doing
this
the
out.
show.
I don't use this webcam for our podcast. I am now doing more work for this show than we do on our own show.
No, seriously. The thing is, like, because we record it and stuff, so we have the option, if we want, to edit the audio.
We don't.
But I choose not to. So that, I mean...
Yeah. And you don't show your faces, so people can't be 100% sure it's you.
Right. Well, yeah, that's
plausible deniability is what it
pretty is. Pretty much. So Bradford, what are the channels they can choose to listen to us on if they actually make?
So if they choose, if you want to listen to us, you can listen to us on iTunes. Just search Gaming the Industry. Google Play Music. Thank you, all 0 of you who listen to us there, according to our analytics. I know 6 people in real life who downloaded on that, but for some reason Google Analytics doesn't choose to recognize us. You can listen to us on Stitcher Radio. We're somehow still on the Zune Marketplace. So, yeah.
That's a thing still?
That's a thing still. Yeah, it's the Groove Marketplace now, but I still call it Zune because that's what it was called when we put it on there. And we had one listener that listened to us on a Windows phone, so we literally put it on there for that one person.
Nice. He's still listening, too.
Probably
You're like the only thing that he listens to. You're the only thing that's still going to that like marketplace.
Somewhere in a bunker underground, that one Microsoft phone user is listening to your podcast.
He's not, because he can't stand Shank.
Oh,
yeah.
Fair.
A lot of people don't like me, which is kind of cool.
This guy and is still having audio issues.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, let's move on. Actually, I was going to go to Dame's What Are You Playing Next? But I'm going to do mine first because Dame's got more stuff going on. So what am I playing? It's a game called Next Up Hero. It's a game that just hit early access. It was in beta before. It's a curious little game. So it's, I mean, if you watched the show last week, you know that I'm a big fan of Cuphead, which is just drawn out, terrible, just tough gameplay. And this kind of speaks in that same vein. The gameplay is extremely tough. It's got a lot of different components to it, and one of the things that it has is like you'll see in the trailer. There's echoes, which when you die, you leave an echo on any level, and when you get back to that level, if there's an echo there, you can pick up that hero, and the echo will help you during battle. So the more you lose on a level, the better you'll get. Well, I mean, the better chance you'll have of passing it later because you'll be able to pick up these echoes. The cool thing also is that if there's another player watching you play and you pick up an echo, you can actually have that player jump in as that echo and fight alongside you. So
nice.
It's kind of a cool idea, and that was a premise of like this old school N64 Kirby title where like whenever you sucked in like an enemy, the other player could press start and jump out as that little enemy and like run around. You could play together. So I really love that game, and I was like, why don't more games do that? Because it kind of has like, you know, it adds a difficulty that a lot of games don't. And Next Up Hero does that, and I think basically I'm going to be doing a preview on it on GameSpace coming up shortly, but I'm also going to be doing a lot of streams of Next Up Hero, so if you guys want to check it out, definitely check out my channel, Gaming with Dexum. We're actually broadcasting this show there as well, so feel free to hop in, talk to me about it. I'm pretty much going to be streaming that until my fingers hurt. Another cool thing that I liked about it is that they have a disclaimer whenever you start the game. Even though I'm playing it on Steam, it's like, hey, if you're not playing with a controller, play with a controller, because it very much is geared towards controller play. And I'm waiting for it to release. Well, I'm waiting for it to release because it's early access, but I'd like to see it on the PlayStation, which it will be releasing on the PlayStation and the Xbox. So that is what I'm playing.
I believe it's coming on the Switch too.
Yeah, it's coming all across the board. So
okay.
I dig it. It seems like it's a game that kind of speaks for kids a little bit, but it's really not. I've played through it, like even the tutorial on normal mode, like the second level, it's just like I died so many times. It was just like, it's insane. But I love the challenge because that's the kind of gamer I am. So like I said, next week and the week after, check me out on my stream, and we'll see how far I can get. Now, rolling on, we're going to talk about Dame's podcast. He has a podcast. It's called Roll the Level, not Roll the Bean, which is originally what I thought that it was called, but I was tired at the time. Roll the Level. So tell us a little bit about this podcast. What can we expect? Is it better because it doesn't have Shank, or I mean,
probably. I mean, yeah.
Technically.
I can neither confirm nor deny that because I've never.
I can.
This is actually the first time I've gotten to speak face to face with Shank. So anything that I'm going on from his reputation is purely from Bradford, and I understand that he lies all the time. So
thank you.
So
you are correct.
I'm not entirely sure what to believe there. So we're gonna go with that. But
character assassinations all around.
So Roll the Level is actually a running conversation between myself and another one of our GameSpace writers, Matt Keith, GameSpace and MMORPG writer Matt Keith. But it is a running conversation about life, God, and video games. For if you've seen any of my articles on GameSpace, I make no apologies. I'm a pastor in real life, and so that's kind of it kind of permeates everything that I do. And so one of the questions we started asking a couple of years ago was how do we interact with this conversation about life and faith and video games, and what stories are told in gaming, or what conversations are come out of gaming that we can have that kind of help build character and help us kind of roll into a new level or to improve ourselves to get better at this thing that we're doing, and because experience is better in a group, and it's my opinion that the Christian experience is better too with that. So whether you're a newbie in gaming or life or video games or faith, we want to help each other, kind of roll into a new level together. That's kind of our shtick. That's kind of the conversation that we have, and so we try to keep an entry point. We try to keep the conversation an entry point, so no matter where you are in that conversation, there's some information that you can kind of glean from that, and hopefully you find something that's encouraging or challenging or enlightening through that process. I come out of a generation of and I come out of a kind of an environment where video games and faith were kind of at tension or at odds with each other. So like I came out of that like Pokemon is the devil era of video games, and I never quite understood why that was. And so this is kind of one of those things that's kind of born out of wrestling with, okay, I'm a gamer, but I'm also a Christian. I'm a person of faith and conviction. And so how do I deal with these things? How do I talk about these things, and why does this matter? And video games are an art form. I love what art does. So in telling stories. So anyway, whatever the case is, that's a little bit of a preview of what Roll the Level is all about. We try to release a new episode every week. We've got a blog on WordPress, but you can find the podcast on iTunes. Just look up Roll the Level on iTunes. We're also at rollthelevel.podbean.com, which is where Stephen got Roll the Bean from. So it is not Roll the Bean, but Roll the Level. So rollthelevel.podbean.com. We're also at Roll the Level on Twitter, or I'm at Pastor Dame on Twitter as well. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me on that. So that is my plug.
Awesome. Tomorrow, Google's gonna put out analytics saying most searched for was Roll the Bean. Even though there's only like 20 some odd people, they're just gonna keep searching for Roll the Bean. I really like the premise of the podcast. I think that what I like the most about the plug was that you talked about if they're new to faith, and if they're new to gaming. But I also thought it was interesting that you said if they're new to life, because I think that would be amazing. if you're brand new to life, just plug in.
Got 10 babies listening.
Yeah, that was just kind of me, like just kind of vamping a little bit, and my mouth worked a little bit faster than my brain did. My hands were moving just as fast as my mouth was, so that's pretty typical sometimes. So
well, I don't, I know how that is, and I think most of our viewers right now probably are under the age of 1, so you never know. So let's talk a little bit about what you're playing. It's different than what you were playing last week.
It is.
Yeah, it is, which is you just moved right along. You're like Bradford over here.
Yeah. I am playing Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Actually, I just finished it today. So it is one of the games.
What a good man.
It is one of the games that is for free right now on PlayStation Plus. So if you have PS Plus, you have zero excuse right now to not play this game. It was I played Human Revolution a couple of years ago. Got it on sale on Steam and just absolutely fell in love with the gameplay. It is a stealth action espionage sort of game. There's a lot of like kind of political and technological intrigue that goes along with it. You play as Agent Adam Jensen. You are an augmented human being. You have all sorts of cybernetic implants and attachments that he did not ask for, and you kind of navigate this story in Mankind Divided about the tension between humanity unaugmented and augmented humanity. And so there are a lot of really, really poignant themes in here about racial tensions and even like the final line. And this just like I tweeted this out today because this was absolutely so fantastic here. Like the final line of this, Alyssa Kassan is this like news reporter that from the Picus Media Group that is just this absolute sham of a news agency, and she makes a statement about fake news, about the danger of fake news, and it was just so funny, like to hear somebody that is a fabricated journalist.
She's literally
she is literally a fabricated journalist that is fabricating news on a fabricating news network, talking about the danger of fabricated news. So just absolutely phenomenal game. Like I said, I plowed through it this week. Like I was so gripped by the story and the gameplay, and I always err on the side of non-violence with games like this. So I think I maybe accidentally killed someone once, but outside of that, it was like stun gun all the way.
Yeah, it's awesome whenever games give you that option. But yeah, like you said, free.
I never have an option.
Yeah, well, everyone, but they don't even give you that option in the games. They're like, oh, they can just sense that it's you, and they're like, no, just weapons, just nothing but weapons.
Like Dame said, he accidentally killed one person. I would have accidentally killed every person. I wouldn't have tried to. They just would have ended up dead.
Bradford in stealth games is like me in MMOs. Like the level of feeling lost is basically the same.
Yeah.
Well, we actually did pretty well, finishing a little bit over time this week. But I'd like to thank all of my co-hosts as usual. I think that we did CES proud. I think that we covered a lot of the good hardware. I think we got a lot of the good plugs in. We learned a lot about Shank, mostly.
You're welcome, Internet.
Yeah, I mean, it's important that we get that word out quickly.
I don't even know, like, the origin of the whole Shank is rich thing is just like...
Well, it's because you have money, and therefore you're rich, and
okay,
that's where the origin was.
Before we go too far into this, whenever I asked for a short video of Shank the first time, he sent me a picture of Scrooge McDuck swimming in his money ball.
It was a looping video.
And then it just put his face over, like his face just kind of appeared out from the money pit. So I mean, it's not like this just came out of nowhere that he was rich. He's kind of running with it. So you can't just blame Bradford on this one.
He's not rich. He can just buy whatever he wants.
Yeah,
all the time.
That's not rich.
There's a certain point in time though, psychologically, like where if somebody calls you a name for long enough, like don't you like just own it and go with it?
No. I mean, yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, kind of like how Bradford lies. So like he's lying about me being rich. So
I don't, but that's fine.
Exactly. So next week our show's going to be a little bit later. I'm going to be in Chicago. But I'm going to come back just for the show. That's not true, but I'm going to say it is. And so we will see you guys next week. I'm going to make sure that all the links for all the plugs are in the description. So if you missed something, or if you just want to check the description and not watch this entire show, which is, I would completely understand that. Then check out the description, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Say bye, everyone. I think Bradford fell asleep.
Bye, everybody.